What is going on YouTube? This is Jim back with another video, and now it's time to talk about the not so great games of 2017. You guys saw my video, hopefully, where I announced Breath of the Wild as the best game of 2017. I don't necessarily think I'm going to crown the absolute worst game, but there are some pretty big stinkers out there. And you think about the year in a whole, it was a very interesting year. It was the rise of the hatred for loot boxes. We saw it first with Shadow of War. We saw it again with Destiny 2. We saw it largely with Star Wars Battlefront 2. A lot of people just got sick and tired of being nickel and dimed, and I'm really glad that finally the industry as a whole stood up for this. If you go back and watch the video game reviews, video game awards rather, with Jeff Keighley, something that I was very passionate about and really enjoyed the presentation of the show, those games and a lot of other games I'm about to mention weren't highlighted as games of the year in 2017 because they were marred in controversy. Now, that doesn't mean I just picked games that were controversial. I picked games that downright sucked, that disappointed me, that frustrated me. Now, these are all games that I have personally played, so let's dive into the list and let's talk about some of the stinkers of 2017. First and foremost, Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, I picked up Mass Effect Andromeda for $15 on an Amazon fire sale. You know, they had like the factory's closing down. We got to get rid of these suckers. It's probably a little cheaper now. And despite all the negative reviews that it got, I really did like the first Mass Effect. Not 2 or 3, just the original Mass Effect. And I lost interest in 2 or 3, but I am thinking, oh, Andromeda is going to be a fun, new, fresh adventure for me to go off and explore a new world and all new characters, and don't worry about the baggage of the old stuff. We're just going to draw a line in the sand, and we're going to go ahead and get into it. And the story of Andromeda starts off phenomenally. It's so interesting. I really like the concept behind it. Then I started playing the game, and it sucks. The gameplay is very blotchy and broken. The combat reminds me of like PUBG and early alpha, where like everything was just very flipbooky. Nothing felt smooth. Nothing felt fluid. Enemy AI was non-existent. Friendly AI was non-existent. You just kind of stood there and took turns shooting at each other until somebody died. It didn't feel rewarding in exploration. The graphics looked wonky. So, yes, the story did start off great. Don't know how it ends. I'll never beat it. As a matter of fact, I got stuck on a planet because my vehicle, God, what was the name of it? Tumbler? Mantis? I don't even remember what the stupid thing is, but like the car you drive around with. Mine got stuck in the world, and then it glitched through the ground and vanished. And I kept dying. And my respawn for my waypoint would be as the car was going halfway down in my save state, and about within a second I would die. And I was like, oh, great, I'm stuck. So I'd have to revert to a previous save point, but I just wasn't feeling it. And based on the reviews and based on the fact that that game did horribly and they pulled any DLC support for it, it was rushed, it was broken, it was glitchy. It's a shame, but I think that's the end of Mass Effect, and honestly, good riddance, because Andromeda sucked. Next, Fortnite Early Access. Now, Fortnite in of itself is amazing. I love the concept. I love the art style. I love the battle royale. When they announced that Fortnite was going to be a free-to-play game, they announced it at the PlayStation, the PlayStation Experience pre-show. I was like, oh my God, this looks so much fun. You're going to be able to make all these zany traps to fight enemies, and you're going to build up your own fort. This was long before the This was long before the battleground aspect to it. This was just Fortnite single player or, co-op, whatever, where, against waves of enemies. It looks so cool. And then they're like, oh, it's going to be free to play. But not yet. You're going to have to wait. And then you have to pay money if you want to get a paid early access. No thanks. Let me tell you guys a little story about free-to-play games. They're called free-to-play for a reason. Heroes of the Storm does free-to-play very well. They drip feed you content. And if you want the better stuff, you pay for it. You want a cool character skin, you pay for it. You want a cool this or that, you pay for it. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay for is being a paid beta tester. I did that with Rust. I was going to do that with Ark. Thank God I didn't get into that sandpit. I did it with PUBG, but they actually rewarded me by going 1.0. But to pay for an early access version of a game is just really stupid and dumb. And the fact that it was so expensive, was like $50, and then they had some founders pack for like 80 or 90. It just seemed like they were a little too full of themselves. And the game is fun. There are a lot of bugs. It's very cumbersome. They're going to work through them, I'm sure. And when they're ready to release me a real game, I will buy it. But I did have to pick on it because I felt that for them to announce it as free to play and then to turn around and say, just kidding, it's not really free to play, was a pretty shady move. So no bueno to Fortnite single player. Lawbreakers is another game that I think confirms that Cliff Bleszinski is a one-hit wonder, which is sad because I am a huge Gears fan. You can probably see right over here. No, it's hard to point in reverse. All the Gears figures I have the Gear. I mean, I'm a super huge Gears fan, okay? I love Gears of War, and I love Cliff Bleszinski forever for bringing me that franchise. Lawbreakers seemed like it was going to be something fresh and new, the way he hyped it up, the way it's going to revolutionize shooters. It did no such thing. It was basically a really watered-down first-person shooter with pockets of low gravity. That's really all it was. The characters felt uninspiring. The weapons felt uninspiring. The music, the objectives, everything about it just was kind of meh. And I think a lot of people agreed because the game just fell flat very, very, very rapidly. I think at one point, I think there's down to like 12 players or something. I don't know if anybody even plays it anymore. I don't know if the servers are up. The game just died a horrible death, and it's a shame. But, you know, when you're going to hype something up as the next big thing, you better make it the next big thing. So no bueno on Lawbreakers. Similarly, Agents of Mayhem falls into this category. Saints Row has definitely become a watered-down franchise. You know, Johnny Gat, as cool as he is, just cannot carry a game. I think that's made abundantly clear at this point. Agents of Mayhem was supposed to be this really fun, you know, team kind of shooter where you ran around and went hog wild. But then you started to see the technical limitations of the game, how when you would enter combat, it would kind of put you in this little zone where you couldn't just freely run around like the way that an open world game, say like Horizon or something, would let you just kite enemies all the way across the world if you wanted to. You know, the tons of characters, the tons of weapons, very repetitive, very bland, very watered down. Me personally, I was really hyped up for it, and it just didn't deliver. And it's unfortunate because I think that's probably the swan song for Saints Row. Probably a good thing. I think the franchise needs to take a break, maybe forever, but at least in the interim to kind of just like work out some of the problems that they had. But Agents of Mayhem, I think, just summarizes the hype of what could have been that just didn't really deliver. Next, we get into some of the real stinkers, the ones that hurt me really bad. Destiny 2, which if I had to rank the absolute worst game this year, I would have to say it's Destiny 2. This game has been marred with nothing but controversy since it came out. Whether it be Bungie screwing us on the amount of experience they said they give us, whether they put a lot of the content behind paywalls with the Eververse, either in the expansion or during the events, or the DLC. The broken responses after broken responses. There's so many people doing better reviews or discussions on Destiny news than I am, but I just felt as a customer of Destiny and a super big fan of the first one that the second one was a guaranteed home run, that it was just going to work. It was just going to be an amazing, fun experience that just I could sink hours into with my buddies and just enjoy it on the PlayStation 4 Pro with 4K graphics and HDR. It didn't turn out to be any of that. The story was good enough. I'm not going to beat it up on the story. It was everything after the story that really broke it for me. And just the lack of thought that the guys at Bungie put into it. It's like, man, you guys have fallen so far from the glory days of Halo 3, where you just look at like all the systems they have in place and the death by microtransaction and a lot of the gimmicks and paywalls and things that they put into place to just really screw you as a player. It's really unfortunate. I did not pick up the DLC, and I'm done with the game. I don't think I'll go back to it at all. And that's sad because that was really going into E3. That was one of the most hyped games I had, and I was so excited to go behind the scenes and see all the weapons. And you saw my E3 videos. You know how excited I was to go play Destiny, get the shirt and like hands-on with like all the new hunter abilities and warrior abilities and like, just... It's just frustrating. You know, I think about like games that just hyped up themselves so much, but then delivered so little. And Destiny's got to be the epitome of that. And if Destiny is, and I'll tell you the next one that is, and that's got to be Star Wars Battlefront 2, which I was so excited about. That was the first game I ever really played in 4K. That was at the EA. That was my first ever behind closed doors little, experience I got to see. That was at EA Play, or EA Access, I think they call it, or EA Play, whatever it is, at E3 this year. And my wife and I got to play it on the first time we ever tried a PlayStation 4 Pro. So again, very nostalgic for me that I actually got to see this game, and the lighting effects that, they used that Frostbite engine, and how gorgeous it looked, and how realistic everything was, and how much I was in the Star Wars universe. And then you start finding out about all the pay-to-win systems that put into place, and all the microtransactions that they wanted you to get. And it just snowballed. And I was like, man, I have to speak with my wallet here. And I'm glad that I did, because EA did change a lot of their practices. They did go back and they're like, oh, we are halting. And as of today, as of Christmas Day 2017, they still have not re-implemented microtransactions. They're still offline, but it's not enough for me. I spoke with my wallet, and I'm going to stay firm on this one. I'm not going to play it. And I'm sad because it could have been so much better. It really could have been. So typical EA being greedy and screwing themselves over again. Very frustrating. Another EA game, since we're on the subject of hating EA, we'll just keep on rolling with Need for Speed Payback. Another game I got to play at EA Play. Yeah, EA Access, I think, is their vault. This is EA Play I'm talking about, the E3 experience. My wife and I waited in line for over an hour to play this on computer. It looked so amazing. It's the level where you're driving around in a Mustang, and these cops are chasing you, and you're swerving in and out of traffic and side-swiping cars, and they're exploding. Really cool idea. Huge fan of Need for Speed. One of my first PlayStation games was Need for Speed. If you guys recall the old TSY BNS code, then you would hit all the 4 trigger buttons on the top, and it would unlock a car called the Warrior, which was purple and had every stat maxed out. That's the kind of hardcore Need for Speed player I am. Those are the days I remember. Anyways, playing through Need for Speed. It was supposed to have the story. It really had this like Fast and the Furious vibe to it. You can customize your car. I have the wheel, the Logitech wheel. I'm like, man, it's got wheel support. I'll be able to play with my wheel, driving in and out of traffic, like sideswiping people. It's going to be so much fun. And then you find out that the upgrade system is card-based, which is loot box-based. And you can't even really upgrade your car like you would in a traditional game and go to a mechanic and like put stat points in like a better motor or better tires. No, you play cards, which you get through loot boxes. And I was like, oh no, another loot box game. I think the Metacritic score on it, I want to say, is like a 60%, and that's probably where it belongs. Just failed promises, failed to delivery on just the hype of that game. For me, was through the roof, and then it came out and it just sucked. What else did I have on my list? Last one. One that I'm actually playing and kind of enjoying, only because I got it as a glitch. I got it for $10 at Walmart, and that's Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Now, I love that Middle-earth vibe. I love like knights and dragons and, medieval kind of stuff and swords and spells and all that. And I was a huge fan of Shadow of Mordor. Shadow of War seems like it's going to be a great game, but then I found out 2 very important things. 1, microtransactions are littered in the game, and 2, they force you to almost get microtransactions because the true ending is behind a grind fest that can really only be completed when you have the best orcs, which you could buy to kind of work your way to that victory. And it's those true endings. You guys have played Batman Arkham Knight. You know what I'm talking about here. It's where you beat the game, but it's not the real ending. There's like a bonus ending of like, okay, that's sort of the end. Let's roll the credits, then we'll put you back in game. Now do all these other things, and then you get a super really cool special canon ending. The other ending's just like, well, there's something there. And I freaking hate that. But then I really hate it that with the microtransaction system in place, that's really how they want you to get that ending, because your orcs are going to die. You build up an army, basically. Cool idea, right? Again, another amazing game. Fail to deliver here. You build up an army and you go invade other orc castles. Instead of it just one-on-one, you'll have like an army with you, fighting. and you siege the castle and climb up and fight your way through to the main orc and kill him and take over the castle and plant your flag, and this is now Italian zone, and heck yeah, right? That sounds really cool. What doesn't sound really cool is when your orcs die in combat, and the fastest way to get them is those good old loot boxes. And boy, oh boy, when you hit pause, that menu for the store is like just right in your face, and they're always hyping it up, and the tooltips are talking about it, and it's like the store, the store, the store, the store, get these loot boxes, buy this, get more. And it's like, how many times do I have to buy your game? How much money do I need to put in these systems that I've already put in, because it stinks? So there you have it. That's my list of the not so great games of 2017. There's probably more out there, but those are the ones that I personally played in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not necessarily bought, where I just got heartbroken and I just realized that, oh man. And again, go back and watch the Video Game Awards. A lot of those games are not really highlighted and not really featured for those very reasons, because I think a lot of people saw the writing on the wall. And yes, the history books will reflect, for example, that Destiny 2 is, I think, the #2 best-selling game in 2017. But look at the player count, look at the forums, look at people's reaction to that game. And yes, don't worry, they got their money, but they won't get it again. So maybe we made a stand on Star Wars Battlefront. Maybe we'll make a stand on some of these other games in the near future. Only time will tell. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Get out there and avoid those stinky games. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.